marks the mile as Iowa City's Ted Wheeler spurts abreast of Hungary's distant star Laszlo Tabori to edge him at the wire. Time 4:06.9, another new Drake record and a thriller-diller finish to a sensational series of contests.
And didn't invite me. And Tabori had been an international successful distance runner, European champion, etc. And of course, I'd been on the Olympic team. And they didn't invite me to run, but they invited Tabori. And I showed up, put my Olympic shirt on, and ran with him and nipped him at the tape, which I was quite fulfilling.
Felt pretty good.
Yeah. Well, and I arrived. I arrived because, number one, I was too tall and too black. Well, yeah, I mean, black, you see nobody black running anything, especially distance. And you don't ever find anybody 6'4".
Yeah. Yeah.
And Tabori was almost under my armpits.
But probably did it make people think, well, maybe this is the future? A tall, black, middle distance runners, they're going to be the future.
The distance runner was a foreign language. They didn't have thoughts of having people who were of color. of that family that I didn't have.
That you didn't have?
Well, my father had three families. That was, we were just hanging on. But the good thing about this, for me, is that I went there and went to school, went to high school.
In Evanston?
Yeah. With a sort of, a guy named Sattersweed. I'll never forget him. A guy named Sattersweed. A tall, formal, blonde-haired man who was very, very...
And he was helpful to you?
Oh, well, it gave me something to think about. What do you want to do in your life? Dig holes someplace, I guess. Well, you need to think about it sometime. So he would invite me out to cross-country course.
And this was in Evanston, right?
Yeah. Junior, senior, high school. And we had the trees. I go by there, and the trees are still standing.
Wow.
On the athletic field. But I was quite to have to come out of Georgia and go to an exclusive place like Evanston and bump into people that got you to go in. What the hell am I going? Went to Northwestern for a while. Then I had the good fortune of running into you somewhere.
Right here in Iowa City.
Yeah, right here in Iowa City.
Well, I wish I could...
Anything you can wish upon, wish it, and see it might happen. I have been fortunate enough in the East Coast, from New England south to Florida and west up there to Chicago, Iowa. I liked. Well, my brother, I was.
Why don't you turn off the music? Is it okay? I won't break anything, will I, if I turn off the music?
No, I won't break anything, just don't kick it. Turn it off with your hand.
So beautiful.
Well, I'll tell you what, and coming up, music was a big thing in the Southern family. And we go to quartet sings or blues, mostly blues. The thing is this always fascinated me. Once a year, we would do the graveyard walk with a small band, a small musical group in Lafayette. And Lafayette was, the graveyards weren't segregated. All the graveyards were together. And so you go to see your relatives in this place and you run into the white barrels and all that. And it was confusing to this day. Why the hell do you want to be buried next to them if they don't want you around?
So they didn't have separate cemeteries?
That's a strange thing, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was quite, yeah.
And this is in Lafayette, Georgia.
Lafayette. We don't do
Lafayette.
Lafayette.
Okay.
That's y'all
Sorry.
white folks. Lafayette.
Lafayette.
It's going on in Lafayette.
So when you decided to leave Lafayette, what was the plan?
I was going. My brother had joined the Navy, or had joined the Navy, yeah, and so I'd go. He was stationed in Great Lakes, up in north of Chicago.
Oh, sure.
And so I would hop up there and see him. And my dad had moved there for some reason, and in Evanston, and so I saw no reason to go back to Georgia. My brother's in Great Lakes, and my dad's living in an apartment in Evanston. And I stayed there, and I never. Can you imagine this? Can you imagine this? A guy named Satterthwaite, my English teacher.
Okay.
Satterthwaite invited me out often just to think and talk. Slightly tall, blonde. I'm guessing he was just like very conservative. But he used to take me out and run me around these trees.
So he was a runner.
No, he just wanted me to run. He's about 6'1" or 2", a very conservative, was an English teacher. And author. He was a very scholarly person and took an interest in me.
And do you think that was because he saw you as being intelligent or having potential, or?
No, to this day, I wonder why he took. To this day, he got me out of there, and I wonder why the hell did he get me out of there? Is it cold in here to you?
It isn't cold to me, but if you want to turn up the heat, that's fine.
You're gonna charge me then, huh?
No, we're not gonna. They will charge you. They will charge you if you turn it up.
All right. But I have been very, very fortunate to escape Lafayette, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Broad Street, and so I went all through. And my dad had moved, had joined the Navy. And so I just went up there where he was. I got an apartment. He got married again. And so his family moved to Glencoe, next door to Great Lakes.
Uh-huh.
And so that's how I got there.
You told me once when you left Georgia that you were going to use the churches along the way, that you would stay in churches.
Yeah.
And why was that?
Safe. And they would always. Spanish thing, you mentioned that because I was trying. How the hell did I? Man, it make no sense. Why you go to church just because it's nighttime? Shit. Well, anyways, from Georgia to Johnstown, Pennsylvania. I went and spent the night, and these churches are in. Why the hell was it? When I didn't have to, but I did go to these churches in the daytime and have a place, not daytime, but when it was not services, and worked my way from Georgia to Johnstown, and it was. It worked out. My grandfather was a cool man, Cherokee Indian and Caucasian. His name was Millard Wheeler. And I showed up there at the house on the hill in Johnstown, and the whole family was having a meeting about what they're going to do with me. And they're in the kitchen. It's a big kitchen. And he's off in a small sitting room, and he's sitting there, and they're debating, what room could he sleep in, how many beds we had, all these sort of things. And all of a sudden the door just opened wide abruptly, and my grandfather said, "The boys will stay here as long as Grace wants them here. The bedroom upstairs, I'm not sleeping in it anymore. They can sleep in it, in the attic and that room." So that's the first time someone stood up for me.
Because why were they upset with you? Why did they not know what to do with you?
Man, there was 9 people in this house and 2 bedrooms.
Okay. So it was about having enough space, enough room.
Well, space. I look at space by looking at being human, caring.
Okay.
I thought mostly about. I really felt 3 of us slept in one small bed. I had 7, 8, and 9. And so it was very, very tight and consuming of any kind of energy. And we had grits for breakfast, grits for lunch, and we had beans for the supper, pinto beans, for a number of months, years.
And who did the cooking?
Boiling was my grandmother, Clara Richardson. Yeah.
Was she a good woman? A good grandmother?
Not rich. She was good because she didn't want to be ugly like my Aunt Ruby was great. She and my grandfather were very, very thoughtful, nice.
Nice. Did you ever see them again after you left?
Every now and then I'd come by the house and see Lee Richardson. I wouldn't go to the house. He worked in the mill, and I'd go. I knew what time he got off, and I'd wait in that trail to walk with him over the mountain back to where the house was. So I got to see him there, and subsequently they put all 3 of us in one bed, and after they let me back in, well, we'd gone back and forth between Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and Lafayette, Georgia, and they decided to put us in one small room in Johnstown with no heat half the time.
So when you got to Evanston, did it seem like a whole new world, or did it?
It was. My dad had a sense of helping, responsible. So I felt, and I started running, and I had an English teacher who, Satterthwaite, did I mention his name?
Yes.
Satterthwaite, why don't you go out there and run with them boys a little bit? And so I got to running around this huge 2-mile wide park. And that's when I started running, and I start beating everybody on the team that had been on the team the previous year, and then going to the state meet in Urbana-Champaign. The team went, and I went. To this day, the man who just passed away saw me kicking cans in Urbana, and he took an interest in me, and we went. When I went back to Evanston, he got me to run around this big park. He was an English teacher, and he was awesome. Well, to this day, every now and then I thank him for helping me get out of there.
Wow. And you say he just recently passed away?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Did it surprise you were so good at running?
A little bit. My brother loved to run, and it wasn't a big deal. But this guy Satisway liked me, and he wanted to see me run, and so he come on out and run with the cross country team. Well, I'm not on the team. Well, that's all right. You can run with him. So I would start running with him, and then I start beating all the cross country team. And then I went to the state meet, and the guy who just passed away here in Iowa City was the guy who saw me walking, kicking stones down there, and it put me in the car and took me to Chicago. And so I went back to my dad's place and stayed there for a while, and then with my senior year, I was wise enough to hitchhike one fall back to. I worked at the airport in Chicago.
Really?
Yeah.
O'Hare,
yeah. And I decided I had the weekend off. I decided to hitchhike came down, never forget, coming through northern Illinois, northern Iowa, on the tip. And hitchhiked into to this city where my grandfather lived. Oh no! I hitchhiked into Evanston, and eventually I came here because I had become a pretty good, effective runner.
Okay, so you hitchhiked to Evanston, or hitchhiked to Iowa City, or?
I hitchhiked to Evanston.
Okay.
And then after being in Evanston for a little while, my father, he had four daughters, and all of us was in this one bedroom apartment.
Whoa.
And so to get me out of there, he couldn't just say throw one of his children out in the street. He showed me how to go to this school to possibly be entered. So I came here, South Quad, I'll never forget it. And they let me in South Quad, and I said, "You've got to be in school to stay here." So, that's it, I'll go. So I went into the math course and the English class.
And so Kretzmeyer was the coach then?
Yeah.
And was Deacon already here too?
No, he wasn't. We ran all the time to go any place, and by this time I'm living in Iowa City, and Deacon lived in Freeport, Illinois, and he was on his own and ran, and I was on my own, and to this day, the guy who just helped me just passed away. The guy who helped me, a white dude, who helped me find myself, and he saw me walking around kicking hands in a lot of that down in Champaign. He said, "Come on, ride on back to me." I lived in Chicago then with my dad.
Yeah.
Near the airport, near the.
So 4 years later, you're on the Olympic team?
Yeah.
That's quite a jump. That's quite a...
Well, you know how they have, back in those days, they were going to take X number of people, and I ran well enough to go to Northwestern for the trials, Northwestern University, and I was X number of places, and that's where it goes. Or Champaign, Illinois. But guess where I met this guy who just passed away. I met him down there, and he drove me back, or let me run, and then drove me back to Chicago, Evanston. And I spent time with him, and you ought to go back to school. I said, well, my dad will let me go. I'm going to go over there and talk with him. So he went over to see my dad on Darrow Avenue. And he said, your son's good, run pretty good. He ought to be in school someplace. So anyway, I went back to school. And that was saddest way. I was lucky to survive. Lucky to survive.
Well, I'm sure you got some help, but I'm sure a lot of it had to come from within.
Yeah, I'd have to say I got help. The help was a pat on the back. People would say, you should be a good runner. And they see me running in the streets at night and running out Darrell Street to the airport. And I wasn't even on the track team. And so they said, you ought to be out there on the real team. So eventually I joined the team in high school, junior high, whatever it was. And we ran over in this 2-mile area every day.
Yeah. But did some of that toughness come from growing up in Georgia? You know, three boys sleeping in the bed together.
Oh, wow, man, you're not gonna. Yeah, sleeping in. The biggest thing in Georgia was sleeping on the floor. You know, all the 3 boys sleeping in rags on the floor. And I disliked that. My brothers would pull the carpet away from me, and I'd pull it back. And eventually, they gave in and said, we got to split this up. So we split the carpet up and leaning in against the wall. And my brother decided to go to the Navy. And so that gives me, he joined the Navy, and that gives me another spot on the pad. And so as time went ahead, I bumped into the guy who just passed here. Helped me a lot. Helped me a lot by supporting and encouraging.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the trajectory of your life, you graduate from Iowa, you go to the Olympic Games. What did you think was going to happen next?
I didn't go to the Olympic Games. There had not been a black person of color who had run in the games, run any distance in the. I went to a lot of track meets, locals in the stadium in Chicago, but there were never any black people running in anything, and I decided that I was going to try and be the first black fellow running. And the state meet in high school, this guy who just passed this last week would saw me walking in circles in Champaign and put me in the car and drove me to Chicago and said, yeah, you can run these guys. And so he got me to, gave me support and encouraged me to run.
So what led you to decide to coach track?
That became my senior year at Evanston High School. There weren't any coaches. People gave their time to young men, black or white, and I was a black kid. My father had no interest in helping, so I decided to run on the team in Evanston, and I didn't know one invited me, but I invited myself, and of course, there was no track team, but on the cross country team, and I just jogged with them, and jog to the airport and come back. And when they got back, I was in the front. What you guys let this guy get out here like that? Oh, wow, he's running too fast. Well, we'll slow him down. Don't run off in front of everybody. Ted. I said, I won't do it no more, Mr. Satterthwaite. So, but the guys run. I said, man, they running so slow. I mean, they running slow enough where I was walking and running fast, and they were running. And so this guy who just died here in Italy became a friend of mine over the years, and he was the one who got me out of Urbana Champaign and told me I could run like as good as the rest of them.
Right. So talk a little bit about the race at Drake when the guy from what country was he from?
Hungary.
Hungary. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the background of that race?
Well, my brother Bill wanted to become a distance runner, and he couldn't because he was black, and then he just joined the Navy, and it was left to me to say, somebody's got to try and run. And so I start running with the high school, well, around the track, around the area, and I kept up with everybody. And so because of that, and I went to Champaign or Urbana just for the weekend to watch the guys I ran with running. And this guy said, you better than all them other guys. You ought to be out there running. So I started running more seriously then, and I was kind of unofficially put on the track team and cross country team.
Mm-hmm. 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 So after the Olympics, when did you run some races after the Olympics?
I ran. I'll never forget. I was running. I was the only one left. I came back on my own from Australia, and ended up in Hawaii. And the girl on the swimming team was with me the whole way from Australia to the islands. And we came here. It was crazy. We went from out in the ocean, traveling back to Hawaii, staying there for a week or so, and then coming on back here from Hawaii. And we went on from Hawaii to San Francisco, and someone got us on a plane in San Francisco, and we're sitting right in the middle of the track banquet at Evanston.
Really?
Yeah, crazy. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. Well, when you decided to come to Iowa to coach with Kretz, was that an easy decision for you?
I was never quite so much so. I was admitted to the school as a student, and I ran on my own before the track team. The guy Satterthwaite I'm talking about, big guy in my head because he was the first guy who wanted me to also run and also be a student. And so he'd come out and watch me run around this big old tree in Evanston, and I got in the habit of just running forever, because nobody was crazy enough to run around this big park 2 or 3 times. And so I began to be effective as a long runner, and then things shortened up, and I became a mile and a half miler. But you see, when I came along, there weren't any black runners at all.
Yeah.
Not even in the sprints, 800s. And so I came along when all the Olympic team was the runners in the distances were few black, but mostly all white.
Yeah, well, Major League Baseball, I mean, Jackie Robinson, what year was that?
That was 47.
47.
So 47, we have the generation of athletes in track and field coming to grips with running in this country in Madison Square Garden.
But in track and field, how did who changed it? I mean, you changed it.
Well, we changed it with support from the South Africans.
Really?
Oh yeah, South Africans had blacks running. I went over and ran for a month and a half.
In South Africa?
Yeah.
Wow. In Johannesburg and
from the tip of, I would go up into the tip of Europe, where still in Africa, and I would go from town to town. They had races. And I was running these races, and I'd win 99 times out of 100 because they weren't really good runners in the sense of that kind of a mile or a half mile. And so I'd run races from the tip of Europe down to South Africa.
Would there be other black people in the race as well, or?
I'd be the only one.
So you're running against white guys,
Yeah.
Europeans, and so it seems like South Africa, for the apartheid system, that wouldn't make them look very good.
Well, there was a high level of ignorance that they tolerated. I used to go up to the tip of Africa on the tip. I mean, this is in Europe, okay?
Uh-huh.
And then swim. Bunch of us would start swimming down toward the country, South Africa. They put me up at night, put us all up at night, serve us food, and then they get up the next morning and you swim down on your way.
Literally swim?
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like a workout.
Man, that water was so shallow and so so much salt. You weren't going to fall over and die because it was full
You couldn't
of salt.
sink.
I couldn't sink. Yeah. But I liked the trip. It was a hell of a trip. I got a month and a half from there to South Africa, and got to South Africa and ran around with the people, and it was just a ball. Sometimes I'll pull those pictures out from that trip and show that you.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I can see that.
So it was a treat.
So, was that kind of an eye-opening experience? I mean, coming from Georgia to Iowa City, Big Ten, and then you're going to Australia and South.
Fascinating. It's fascinating. I mean, I'm coming out of Georgia where they don't let they don't let no black guys run in no races. Then you come north and you have pin relays and no races in this country for black men, and so it was a constant rejection that I ignored. And say, for example, over here that steeple, about on the board over there, that castle. We were there to travel and run, and they brought us there, and then we ran around that damn circle to the top, and then went out and had a major meal at the cafeteria, which honored this castle.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, is this in Italy?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you went back there with Lena.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Lena and there Yeah, it was really quite a trip.
When you made this trip, this would have been in the 50s, right? After the Olympic Games?
Right.
To the South African people, to the black South African people, were you kind of a curiosity, or were they...
They didn't. Let's say they ignored me.
Really?
Oh yeah. They ignored. Here I'm running up and down and black, staying in black where black people can't stay. They're getting me into places where I can stay as a black man, and I'm competing against their guys whom I'm beating. They're not, but they don't look at themselves as being in this world.
Black South Africans at that time did not think they were part of the world.
The white folks down there.
Oh, the white folks.
The white folks, they didn't give them any recognition.
Any recognition to you, or any recognition to
black people overall?
Black people overall. Okay.
I mean, I'm driving 2,000 miles. Paddling behind these guys, and I get with a little bit of help, and then they don't give me much attention. I get to South Africa, where it's the country, and it was like New York City.
It's like New York City?
Yeah, very, very plush.
Wow.
Food is great, theaters and everything else. Yeah, if you're going to live in on there with all that oil and all that gold, they're going to live. They're going to have to pay people to get it out of there, and of course, part of that was their education.
So when you brought all that experience and knowledge, and that journey we're on from being at Iowa, running the Olympics, traveling, and then you came back as the head coach. Eventually became the head coach.
Yeah.
And in working with young college age, guys, I don't know, what was that like? Was it hard to
for me to absorb their culture and have them respect my culture?
Yeah.
That was weird. Let's say weird only because here I'm going about over 1,000 miles at least down this shore, swimming day by day, and getting the towns along there would be plush European type places, and so the food was good and the people were gave me recognition that I didn't want, but accepted. It meant good food and good experiences. And to have, that was a time when blacks weren't even in Europe weren't given acceptance. So I went over and spent a lot of time. I observed the whole thing, and then went to at the tip of Europe and did it walking. I walked the whole, swam, walked, whatever you want to call it, from the tip of Europe to South Africa.
It's quite a journey.
Fascinating. The thing is, the pictures that I took are quite interesting, and all these things stacked up there. Junk. I've got to do what I hope you do to motivate me. You know how that is?
Yeah.
Get my butt, pull them pictures out of there,
Yeah.
and start looking at them.
Yeah. You should. It's great how many you've got up on the wall.
Well, yeah, it is quite. But then you get the native. You get the natives of that country, and to see country to country to country to country, and the culture. It was truly fascinating. I'd say I was really, really impressed that I had the nerve to do it. I call it nerve. You call it stupidity.
No. You know, considering, you know, Georgia, starting in Georgia and being a world traveler and a celebrity, I mean, you probably weren't thinking about that when you were living in Georgia.
No, not at all.
And,
not at all. Have you been to Georgia?
I've been through it. Been through Atlanta.
You ever been to where I live?
No.
Oh well. We've gone. It hasn't changed. Went down there. A cousin of mine died. I went down to his funeral, and just east of Lafayette. He lives out in the country, Lafayette, Georgia. Went down there to his funeral, and it was hadn't changed in 100 years. Yeah, all the streets are still gravel. I'm sure when the governor came to this town to speak, all the black people here. Well, I mean, his job is down there to cut blacks up in pieces. And
this is when you were young.
No, this is when I'm down there now.
Black people hid when the governor came to town.
Yeah. Well, no, I hid. They're going up to see him and talk about niggers in the city. Tell them some more about them niggers. Governor, I'm going to tell you about it. Get them out of here and get them back to where they came from. Where they come from, they'll find it. And I'm down in this hole in the ditch, and listening to this on a speaker. And the people I work for, very wealthy people, well, I'm glad you got it back all right. Here you are, they're bourgeois people living in, well, somebody's got to be rich in that town. Everybody's stealing from each other.
Sure.
But it fascinated me to go back to Georgia at this time in my life and spend some time.
When did you guys go? Did Lena go with you?
No, Jesus Christ. All you can take a white woman to Georgia, man, they can hang both of you. See.
I'm sorry.
No. But no, I went by myself and found it to be, hadn't changed. They look like they're living in this world.
Shocking.
Same houses, same everything, broken down furniture, broken down houses, and the only thing we had was, well, Lena will tell you, maybe we had a house like this, big house, and cotton would be all planted around it. It's cotton, big ball coming up, and don't run over that cotton now.
That was Maybanks from Georgia?
Maybanks from South Carolina. He was from a very sophisticated town.
Really?
On the coast of Carolina, yeah.
Oh, good.
I never forget, I got to Atlanta, got me a rental car, and drove for about 6 hours over the coast and then drove up the coast of this little town.
Huh.
And I told his mother I was going to go to church with him. And I went to church and sat up there, and the preacher, we got a guest here from out of town. There's a man who came to visit us without regard to his color or our color. But all of us have God in our hearts. And I know, I used to run around with Jesus. I don't run around with him no more. But anyway, I went to this town and it was fascinating. There was no place to spend the night. I got in there early and then stayed to the night and then drove. The coast is 50 miles away, and so they got coastal towns. So I had places. I stayed in a motel or hotel on the coast of South Carolina. Yeah.
but things were a little bit better there as far as the living conditions of people, generally speaking. Unlike Georgia, unlike where
the South is parts of on the coast of South Carolina. It's very bush. I mean, you got money, you stay in there, and you have the best. You don't find anybody who with money who stays in these poor towns. They just stay 10 miles away and come back in and out. But it's really, I found it, the woman, Maybank's mother they told the preacher I was here, boy, this preacher, got a man here from the South coming down here to be with you black people. and they just blah, 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 blah. I said, man, what did I do to get all this applause? He's going, when he came to Iowa, because ain't nobody else would want to go in there and get him out of there.
Well, he certainly had a great career here.
She has. Well, he got a wife and a family and a job. Yeah.